What they found wasn't a body. I keep going back to the moment when everything stopped feeling normal. Not when the call came in. Not when the search began. It was later. It was standing in a place where a body was supposed to be, and realizing no one was surprised it wasn't there. That's when it hit me. We weren't looking for someone anymore. We were too late to matter. Everyone says the worst part of these stories is what you find. That's not true. The worst part is what isn't there. Because when a body is missing, it means time has already been spent. Plans have already been made. Decisions have already been followed through. And whatever happened didn't need witnesses. I remember how quiet it got. Not the kind of quiet you expect. The kind where people stop asking questions because they're afraid of the answers. No one said it out loud, but we all felt it. This wasn't a rescue. It wasn't even a recovery. It was a confirmation. The space we were standing in had been prepared. Not recently. Not in a hurry. Carefully. I didn't talk about it right away. Not because I was told not to, but because I didn't know how to explain what felt wrong without sounding dramatic. And drama ruins the truth. What stayed with me wasn't fear. It was the sense that we had arrived at the wrong point in the story. Like opening a book halfway through and realizing the beginning had been torn out on purpose. The search continued, technically. Grids were redrawn. Notes were updated. Forms were filled in. But something had shifted. You could feel it in the way people stopped bending down to inspect the ground. In the way eyes moved from looking for something to looking around instead. As if the land itself had become less important than the idea that it might be watching us back. There were discussions about probability. About how often adults disappear and reappear without explanation. About how panic distorts judgment. Those conversations sounded reasonable. They always do. What no one talked about was the order of things. Because order matters. Things had been left in a sequence that didn't match panic. Didn't match injury. Didn't match confusion. They matched completion. And once you notice that, it becomes impossible to ignore. I remember standing near the edge of the search area, watching people move. Everyone stayed busy. Busy is comforting. Busy keeps you from thinking about the gaps. But the gaps were there. Time gaps, behavior gaps, gaps in the way the story should have progressed. For example, if someone intended to disappear without being found, they usually make mistakes. They rush. They leave too much behind, or too little. This wasn't that. What we were seeing suggested patience. Someone who wasn't worried about being interrupted. That raised a question no one wanted to ask yet. Who had time? The man himself didn't fit that picture. At least, not the version of him everyone knew. People described him as consistent, predictable, routine-driven. Those words came up again and again. And that's when another uncomfortable thought started forming. Routine doesn't disappear. It gets replaced. The days passed, and with each one, the expectation of finding something solid faded. Not vanished, faded. Like a sound growing quieter. Not because it's moving away, but because your ears are adjusting. There were moments when the search felt like a performance. Not in a dishonest way. More like everyone was playing their part because that's what comes next. But no one could say what came after this. The location we'd opened stayed untouched after that first inspection. Not sealed off, just avoided. As if opening it again might invite a question we weren't ready to hear. I went back once, alone. Not officially. Not with a reason I could put into words. I wanted to see if it felt different without people around. Didn't. That was worse. The stillness wasn't heavy. It wasn't threatening. It was neutral, which told me something I hadn't considered before. If something terrible had happened there, the space would have held onto it. Places remember violence. This place remembered nothing. That meant the important part had happened somewhere else. Or, the important part hadn't been violent at all. That possibility changes everything. Because when there's no struggle, no force, no urgency, you're left with intention. I started going over the timeline again. Not the official one, the quiet one, the hours no one could fully account for. The decisions that didn't get recorded because they didn't look like decisions at the time. There was a window, not a dramatic one. A normal-sized window where someone could have chosen to turn instead of continue. No one talked about that window, probably because we all have them. As the search slowed, explanations began to harden. People prefer certainty, even false certainty, over open questions. So theories formed. Some said he planned to leave and didn't want to be followed. Some said he met someone and changed direction. Some said the search itself scared him away. Each explanation solved one problem and created three more, because none of them explained the preparation. None of them explained why the space we found felt like the middle of something, not the end. And none of them explained why nothing about his life suggested he was capable of vanishing that cleanly. That contradiction sat at the center of everything. A man described as ordinary, leaving behind something extraordinarily precise. The case didn't close right away. It just thinned. Fewer people, less urgency, shorter updates. Eventually, it slipped into that category of stories people reference vaguely without details. The kind you hear about and feel unsettled without knowing why. But I couldn't stop thinking about one thing. If the place we found wasn't meant to hold a body, then it was meant to hold attention. A pause. A delay. Something to keep us looking in the wrong direction while time kept moving somewhere else. That idea followed me longer than I expected, because it raises a final question, one that still hasn't been answered. If what we found wasn't the end, then where did the story actually finish? And more importantly, was it already over before we even started looking?